Joel Scrivener is a sixth-degree black belt, former 6 times national and 4 times world champion martial artist turned pastor, artist, coach, and international speaker. Combining his fighting and faith, Joel discovered the secret for translating the psyche, skill set, and disciplines of a world-class fighter into every other facet of life. It's a system he calls Winology. He's been called a modern-day warrior poet, and he's dedicated his life to helping others to speak, think, and perform with world-class excellence, to win at life at the highest levels. He is the president and founder of Winology Performance. Let's welcome Joel Scrivener as he talks about Winology, world-class performance, 9 steps to winning in life, business, and relationships.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much. All right. How are you tonight? Is everyone well? Yeah. Very good. Very good. I'll give a second to make sure the mic. I'm slightly loud, and we'll get this microphone adjusted here in just a second. It's great to see all of you. It is an absolute honor to be here with you. I am a public speaker, and I do this for a living, but most of the time I'm in front of an audience that's afraid to be where I'm at, and so now I'm a little intimidated tonight because I'm not used to people grading me and timing me and counting the patterns of my speech. So, there, see? I actually worked on a joke earlier, and I was just going to get up and say all the things wrong just to get under your skin right off the bat. But I decided to avoid that. But it's so fun for me to have the opportunity to be here. McKinney is my hometown. The church that I work with is right here in McKinney, Texas. And so it's just a pleasure to be able to come just a couple miles down the road and be here with you. As Charlene mentioned, I do a lot of different things. I was a professional martial artist. I'm an author and a speaker and a coach. I work with a number of different companies that you would probably know about. One of them is called Whole Foods Market, and I'm having a lot of fun working with that company. Little bistro you've heard of maybe called La Madeleine. And does anybody, do we have any Denver Bronco fans in here? Oh my good, come on Denver Bronco, come on. Pray for them now. Pray for them. Pray for them. So we got to work with a lot of really, really fun and interesting organizations and companies. And this system that I created, I'll tell you about in just a little bit. And I've got a special offer and a gift for you tonight, if you're interested, that I want to do just for you that I've never done for anyone else. But this program, Winology, is something that has been a life work for me. It began for me, the idea of this came when I was 14 years of age. I had been training in the martial arts for a number of years. I was already a national champion. I was already a black belt. And I came home at 14 years of age as a freshman in high school, and I had a D in Spanish. Now, growing up in Oklahoma, I didn't think that I would ever have any need for the language of Spanish, and so it wasn't that much of a big deal to be, but my dad, Ken Scrivener, thought that it was a big enough deal to have a sit-down conversation with me after dinner one night. And so in the conversation, he asked me this question. He said, "Joel, what is the deal with Spanish?" I said, "Dad, it's boring. Why would I ever need Spanish?" Didn't know I'd live in Texas for 23 years. I could have used it quite a bit, right? But he says, "But Joel, you know how to win. You know how to be great. Look at what you've done in the martial arts. Why can't you just take the things that you learn in the martial arts and apply them to Spanish?" I said, "Dad, it's not the same. It won't work like that." He said, "Well, what is it about the martial arts that you love? Do you love everything about the martial arts?" I said, "No." I said, "I don't like the black eyes. I got a black eye at least every other week. I almost went to prom with a black eye. I almost got married with a black eye. I almost had my senior pictures with a black eye. I grew up." You can't tell when I'm on this stage that I'm not that intimidating to look at. I don't stand very tall, but I bark and I bite, so it works out really well. The small dog complex helped me quite a bit in my competition career. But my dad caught me with that. He said, "Why can't you just think about this Spanish class as if it was one of your competitions. It's just another trophy. Just apply the discipline, the focus, the intensity, the things that have made you great in the martial arts. Why can't you just apply that to Spanish and see how that goes? Well, challenge accepted. I put it to the test, and I got an A in Spanish the very next semester. Now, long story short, that 1D my freshman year of Spanish kept me from getting my college scholarship. I was 1/10 of a point off, so it was a hard lesson to learn. I got to pay for my college education. Wonderful. I wish my dad had taught me the lesson in 8th grade. All right? So what I want to talk to you about tonight is simply this. I want to ask you this question. Do you feel like an absolute winner? And yes, it's a trick question, because it has the word absolute in it. And no one feels like an absolute winner. We have areas of our life that we love and enjoy. We have areas of our life that we feel really, really good about for a certain period of time. Anybody ever lost weight? Anybody ever gained it back? Anybody have clothes in their closet that they're trying to get back into? Yes. My wife's like, why don't you get rid of these? Because they're gonna fit again one day. The idea that winning is something that is exclusive for certain individuals is simply not true. There is a science to winning. What I've learned and what I've studied for the last 30 years is how to translate certain characteristics, certain mindsets, certain ways that we think, and apply them across into different areas of life. And so what I've come to realize is that there is a certain psychology, a way of thinking that world-class top performers share. It doesn't matter if they're a top performer in sales or in banking or finance or business or education or sport or music. There's a way that champions think. And if we can learn to think a certain way, we can change the results that we get. Have you ever known someone that self-sabotaged all the time with the words that they spoke and the way that they thought about themselves? We all do. It's very common. I want you to think for a second, project yourself back to a time in your life, maybe the very first time that you ever felt like you won in life. Can you find that time? One of the very first times you ever felt like you won. Anybody got one? Gorev, right? Did I say it right? Yes. All right. What's the time you believe there you felt like you won for one of the very first times?
This was a debating contest, and I was an underdog in the contest. I didn't want to win first place. I was placed second, but I just felt that I did way better than the man.
Right? Excellent. Very good. Very good. Anybody else? Yes, sir. The mustache, sir. That is a winning mustache.
I beat my mother at the game Go Fish when I was 3 years old.
That's fantastic. I'm glad you continued after I beat my mother and told us what it was about. That's excellent. Excellent. I remember the very first time that I really felt like I might be good at the martial arts. I was 11 years old. My mom had signed me up in a class in Broken Arrow, Oklahoma, and the class was called Wild Bunch Karate. Now, this was 1985. Apparently it was pre-lawsuit era. I don't know. It was certainly pre-liability insurance era, at least in the neighborhood that I grew up in. No one in their right mind nowadays would sign their child up intentionally in a program called Wild Bunch. Nobody wants a wild bunch of kids running around in their house. But my mom signed my sisters and I up in this class. And in the third class, we're in our second week, 2 classes a week. In the third class, we are bare knuckle fighting on a hardwood gym floor with no protection, no padding, no anything to keep us safe. And there's a kid next to me fighting my little sister, Summer, and he kicks her and makes her cry. Now, I don't know how you grew up. But there was a basic rule at my house, and it was simply this: no one kicks my sister except me, right? So I asked the instructor, can I fight him next? I don't know if the instructor knew what he was doing or not. I don't know if he realized that this was my sister and I now had a vendetta. But he said yes, and here we are 11 years old making our little positions, and he said go. I flew with this kid. I didn't know any moves at all. 3 classes. I fly at this kid, make up a move, kick him in the face, explode his lips. And before I even landed, I knew I was in trouble. The instructor yells, "Stop!" Right? And you ever had one of those moments that it goes into slow motion and you're like, "Whoa," and you just know you're in trouble? He walks over and he says, "That was awesome." You're going this week. So my competition career began. My third now. I didn't have incentive. Nobody was kicking my sister, and I didn't know anything yet, right? But it gave me a certain level of confidence and a belief that maybe just maybe good at this. See, it's important that we have belief. When you come up onto a stage like this, or in front of your peers and your Toastmaster groups and classes and clubs, it's intimidating to stand in front of people. You have to believe in yourself to step into the role and do what you do. The way you take skill set, translate it into different facets of your life. It takes belief. It takes a certain level of confidence to be able to perform, succeed at anything on any grade level. Now, I want to show you this for just a second, and I'll move on. I'm only going to show you this because I want you to see the website, Winology.com. If you want to, you can go ahead and go to it now. I will make a special offer for you later and give you some really cool but I want to just go ahead and show that to you, and then we'll move on in just a second. What I want to talk to you about right now, if this will work for me, there we go, is that Winology is the study of world-class top performers across all different fields of science and medicine and business, sport, art, music. It's the study of how to think, speak, act, and perform like a world-class top competitor. It's based on 9 specific principles that are absolutely timeless. They're all building blocks, and they build toward helping people create sustainable winning and success in their personal life. Now, the very first company that I worked with was a landscape company. The landscape company was currently making $6 million a year in revenue, which is not bad for a local landscape company. The first year training their team, they made $12 million. They'd never had anyone teach them how to think like this. They're just regular old-fashioned sales guys, and they'd never been trained to think like a world-class top competitor. The second year, they made $20 million, and now they're in their third year, and they're making $20 million again this year. Those people are very, very happy about Winology, right? Business after business, program after program, people that have wanted to lose weight, wanted to improve their confidence, wanted to get a promotion, all types of things in their personal life. But every single business that I've worked in that has applied and implemented my system into their program and gone through the steps with me over the course of a couple of years, every single one of them have exponentially increased their revenue, their business as a whole, their employee health, employee morale, engagement. This is a system that absolutely works. I've lived it my whole life. I'm not perfect. I'm a human being just like you. I make mistakes all the time, but I get back up, right? Winners don't always win. Winners always get back up. Winners always get intentional about what they're going to do the next time, right? We don't always win. We mess up. We make mistakes. We put our foots in our mouths. You can't say foots. That's not even a real word. Somebody write that down. Foots is a word? Thank you. What you believe is what you become. Your own personal belief system is massively important for your personal success. If you don't believe in you, why should anyone else? If you wouldn't buy you, why would anyone else? And by the way, it doesn't matter how good your product may or may not be, you're the product. You're the product. People hire me that haven't read my book, never seen my system, but they buy me. And I go and implement the system. It's you. You're the greatest, most valuable product that you have to offer the world. And the better you train and invest, the more you invest in yourself, and the more that you practice to become that highest level, top, most competitive version. And it's not about beating everyone else. It's about being the best you. That's what this is about. Is that okay? What you believe is what you become. Did you know that your belief systems, your own personal belief systems, affect your health? They affect your stress life. They affect your ability to perform. Did you know that scientifically there's so much going into the studies of positive psychology? 30 years ago, psychology, the whole thing, the whole base of psychology was to get people into average. There were things or people that were called outliers, and nobody knew how or why they did so well. The only thing that psychology focused on was all these people that are below the curve. How can we get them up into the curve? Talking about the public school system, and nothing wrong with the public school system. But when you're dealing with so many people, they have a thing called a river. And how can we just get these kids in the river, right? And some schools that are more adept at dealing with gifted and talented kids have different types of programs, but the base thing is aimed at this average, this middle pathway, and let's just get people into the river, into this pathway of average, of good enough. I'm not satisfied just being in the average. Not when I have the potential to be exceptional, and neither should you. See, you may or may not have the ability to ever become a world-class, world-renowned artist. But anyone can learn and improve their art skills. If you decide to put your effort, if you decide to put your hard work, if you decide to get some education, anything you practice, you can improve. And specifically, the way you think about things and what you believe about things makes a massive difference in the ability you have to have success in that area. If you don't like the results you're getting, the number one thing you need to do is change the way you think. We're a product of our thoughts and our words and the things that we allow to deal and to stay inside of our heart of hearts. You've probably heard the old proverb, out of the overflow of the heart, the mouth speaks. You ever heard that one? You ever had something come out of your mouth that you wish didn't come out of your mouth? I've been married 23 years to the same woman. It's important to put that out. And I've learned the hard way a whole lot of times because of things that come out of my mouth. Oftentimes, I wish I could tell you that I'm Mr. Positive all the time. I wish I could tell you that I never worry, I don't have any fears. But I have daughters. I'm afraid of everything. Because I know the kind of boy I used to be. And I know there's about a gajillion of them out there. And my girls are pretty. So I live in Texas and I have lots of guns and I clean them all the time. If we don't like the results we're getting, we have to learn how to change the way we think. This thought process right here, something that I like to use, and I call it kid faith, I believe is so important for us as adults. See, the reality is that when we were little, when we were young, most of us, there are certain people that had a really, really tough and challenging childhood, and maybe you have a hard time even relating to this in your childhood because there were so many disappointments, and I'm very sorry about that. I'm very sorry about that. And I want to give you some hope in that regard in just a little bit to talk about some of these things. But for the most part, all of us, when we were kids, we had some type of idealistic, innocent belief, faith, that we just trusted and believed. And someone would say, what do you want to be when you grow up, kid? And you would say, there we go, a princess. I couldn't understand any of those things. A fireman, a policeman, a ballerina, the first female president. You had these belief systems, and then you became a teenager, and you realized that the world wasn't as great as you thought it was, and your parents weren't as great as you, and then somebody betrayed you and stabbed you in the back, and she ran off with a dude that had a motorcycle, and now you're writing sad poetry and listening to The Cure, and some of you know what I'm talking about. That may or may not be a part of my personal story. I'm just going to move on from there. But we go through things in life that disappoint us, and if we're not careful, we can have decades of case files of why things aren't going to work out in our lives. Why our marriage isn't going to make it, why our kids aren't going to make it, why we're stuck in this position at work, why we'll never make any more money than we currently make right now. Has anyone in here ever been stuck in a limiting mindset? No. Never? Good, girl. Good. I wish I could say the same. I have been stuck at times in my life in limiting mindsets because of things that happened to me that caused me to get stuck. And I had to learn how to come back to a place of innocence again and to believe again. It's so important that we don't allow the things in life to affect us, because it doesn't just affect the ability to perform, it affects our health. They're now proving scientifically that the way you think determines whether or not you are a healthy or an unhealthy person. About 70% of the modern known diseases, they now believe are caused by wrong thinking and the chemical processes that you have on auto loop inside of your body. See, the more negative you are, the more you focus on bad things and potential bad future outcomes, the more you create toxic cycles, and your body literally poisons itself, and it poisons your future. On the flip side, the more you learn how to find the positive inside of negative situations. See, one of the things I teach and talk about is how to find new, true, positive realities, because every single place in your life has both a positive and a negative reality. Have you ever had a good day and a bad day at the same time? I have. It's called parenting. You can get up and have the greatest day starting out, and by noon the whole thing's falling apart. Have the greatest day at work, come home and there's a letter from the IRS. You can have ups and downs all in the same day. And what they're now finding, and this so much of the study comes out of Harvard University, they're studying the field of positive psychology and the science of positivity. That even if you were created, or not created, but trained by your environment to be a glass half full individual, you can now begin to train yourself. Negativity is a learned trait. Positivity is a learned trait. We have to unlearn some negative mindsets and negative thought processes. Have you ever had something happen that you in your mind began to internalize, and in your mind created a scenario, and now you're having fake conversations in your mind of what you're going to say to this person and how this is going to go, and you don't even get to see them again for 7 days, and by the time you see them, you've had 42 conversations giving them a piece of your mind's mind over and over again. And then when you finally get there, the whole thing was a misunderstanding. And you toxified yourself for a week. You ever had a boss that said, I need to speak with you on Monday, and won't tell you what it's about? Oh, and all weekend long, you're like, oh, what's it? I had that happen one time, and I got myself in such a frenzy. And by the time I got to the meeting with him a couple days later, I was getting a promotion. I'd been in a frenzy the whole time. I got a raise, I got a new office, I got all this, and you ever had a toxic boss experience that you have PTSD from? I had a boss like that the only time he would call me is when he was going to cuss me out. So it took me years to learn how to get out of the assumed negativity anytime the boss would say, I need to speak with you. My heart rate would go through the roof. I'm getting a promotion. I'm scared of it. We have to learn how to control our thoughts. Did you know that scientifically they're proving now that every single one of your thoughts, every single conscious thought you have about 95% of your thoughts are subconscious. You don't even know you're having them. You didn't think about, and in 3, 2, 1, I'm going to smile and put my arm just like, you just do. Your body, you're thinking constantly. You're in a constant dialogue with yourself. But the thoughts that you recognize, the thoughts that you realize you're having, every one of those thoughts, when you realize you're having it, comes with a moment of decision. And you get to choose if that's going to be your thought and your reality, and the cycle of either toxicity or positive, life-giving chemicals. Your body is the greatest drugstore you've ever needed in your life. You can create some of the most incredible drugs inside of your own body. You don't need external things. If you think the right way, you can create all of the wonderful things. Now, obviously, there are different situations and medical situations that people need some help with different types of that. Obviously, that all exists. But it's incredible what can happen when you learn how to change the way you think. One of the things I read from an incredible author, Dr. Caroline Leaf, she wrote an amazing book that I highly recommend called Who Switched Off My Brain? And in her book, one of the things that she found in her studies of neuroscience and behavioral science is that if you learn how to think the right way and to capture the negative thoughts and to find the true realities and reprogram your thoughts toward true positive realities, the more you can do that, you can actually increase your functional intelligence by up to 70%. Could anybody use a 70% functional intelligence boost? I can, right? I could absolutely use a little boost with my intelligence. See, the more negative, the more anxious, the more frustrated, the more angry, the more you have these negative things, the less creative you are, the less solutionary you are, the slower you are to come to a solution that someone else will come to. And we all know in the marketplace that it's the person that's in the right place at the right time with the right product and the right pitch. That's who gets the work. And if we're stuck in a negative cycle that slows down our creativity, we're actually self-sabotaging and don't even know it. We've got to learn how to not only change the way we think, our psychology, but we also have to learn how to change our physiology. I'm going to tell you a story because it's easy. Anytime you have someone that's on the stage, it's easy to judge them. Oh, I bet he grew up rich. I bet he whatever. You look and you judge, and sometimes people say, oh, it must be nice. I bet he's never had a hard day in his life. And the reality is that today is the anniversary of the worst day of my life. And I get to talk to you about it. It's the day my daughter died. 16 years ago, my first daughter, her name was O'Neill. Susie knew her. She was beautiful. Her name meant the champion. At 10 months of age, they found a brain tumor. And it was 100% fatal. No cure. We did brain surgery, we did radiation treatments, we did chemotherapy. It was horrific for 9 months. And then she died. And I went from being this happy, winning, thriving individual to being depressed, suicidal, hopeless. See, life was teaching me that no matter how much you pray, how much you fast, how good you are, what you abstain from, how pure you try to live, the bad stuff happens to really good people. And I got really jaded. And I had to learn how to think the right way again. I had to make a decision. Am I going to stay in this place of negativity, of toxicity, and live the rest of my life from this place where I've lost my faith You heard it said earlier that one of the parts of my vocational life is that I'm a pastor. It's hard to be a successful pastor when you don't have faith anymore. It's a little bit of a challenge. I had to put all of this stuff that I'm talking to you about to the test and learn how to think the right way again. Now, I want you to do something for me. I want you to right now imagine that you just won the $1.6 billion lottery a couple weeks ago. And I want you to stand up like you are the world champ lottery. Stand up. Show me what you would do. Show me how you would stand. Show me the noise. Come on, come on, come on. Everybody, stand up. You are the champion. $1.6 billion. Okay? Right? There you go. There you go. Come on, I got to tell you, I had 1.6 billion reasons to pray some very special prayers. I'm like, come on, Jesus, you know I'll do good with this money. You know I'll do good. But check this out. About 45 seconds ago, most of you in this room were sad. Because you were listening to my story about the worst day of my life. And today is the 16th anniversary of that day. I had another speaking engagement this morning. I cried in front of the whole audience. And apologized. It wasn't very professional. It just hit me like a ton of bricks. But the reality is that we in this room went from sad to happy. And guess what? Some of you just went back to sad again. And the only thing that changed is what you were thinking about and what you were focusing on. See, in just a few minutes ago, you stood up, you changed your focus, you changed your physical positioning, you put your hands in the air, you put a smile on your face, you put a shout in your voice, you made a whole bunch of noise, and you released a whole bunch of really good drugs in your body. You felt really good. See, one of the things that they talk about in scientifically now is that what you focus on is what you feel. What you focus on is what you feel. If you don't like the way you feel, you have to change what you focus on. Because if we're focusing on the wrong things, if we're focusing on the problems, we're not going to be able to see the solutions. Now we have to be, please understand, this isn't about creating a false reality. This isn't about living in denial. This is about recognizing, yes, there are real, true negatives that are going on in the world, going on in politics, going on in my life, going on. You may have real, true negatives going on in finance or in relationships, but I promise you there are real, true positives going on at the exact same time. And the reality that you attach yourself to and grab a hold of and embrace and anchor yourself to, that's the reality that's going to pull you towards your future, either positive or negative. See, some of us just need to make up our minds that this next year, 2019, we're going to be a completely different person than we were in 2018. See, I have a therapist, a physical therapist, not mental therapy. Nothing wrong with mental therapy. I might need some more of it. But a physical therapist, she's a naturopathic therapist, and she taught me something a few months ago, that your cells in your body completely recycle every 4 months of your life. Now what's interesting is if you have a bad 4 months, and maybe you got sick or you got negative or you went through a trauma or you went through whatever, all of the stress and all of the chemicals and all of the toxins are stored in the cells of your body for 4 months. And if you stay in that place, you will continue to create cells that are storing toxins. But the beautiful thing is that if you could make a decision today and start tomorrow for the next 4 months, thinking, speaking, acting, eating, moving differently, 4 months from now, you will have a completely different body on the cellular level, all new cells, and your new body 4 months from now won't have any of the issues that your body did today. It's a pretty amazing thing scientifically. But it takes determination. It takes some discipline. This idea right here, confidence is king, we understand that that's important. Each and every one of us, there are certain things we are really confident about. There are things that we feel really sure we can do. Because of all my training in the martial arts, I feel very confident if I have to get into a physical altercation. I'm normally not very worried because most people have never been in an altercation, and I did it as a hobby. So I'm very confident in that, right? Now, growing up as a short, preppy kid in Oklahoma, I had a lot of practice living around all the big redneck cowboys that thought picking on a preppy and his penny loafers be a fun thing to do. So the confidence I have is because I practiced, not because I just had a natural gift. If you want to have confidence, you have to create practices in your life, daily rituals in your life, disciplines that create a pattern of future success. We've all walked in. Anybody in sales here? Everyone, that's a really good, everyone is in sales. That's right, and you are the product. Thank you very much for reminding me. Everybody's in sales. If you have children, you're in sales. If you have a spouse, you're in sales. Some of you have a tougher customer base than others. It's all right, though. But we've all made a pitch that we are insecure about. We've all gone for a sale, and inside of our head, we were already defeating ourselves. We've also all had one of those moments where we walked into a situation and we just knew we were going to knock this thing out of the park. And so many times, when we come into a situation, simply having confidence, it changes everything. What makes a great golf player a great golf player? Practice. But it's also the ability to stay confident in the midst of intense stress and trauma. See, I have a golf coach. I'm not a great golfer. I have a great golf coach, though. And he could shoot in the 60s, but he's not on the tour. Because there's a difference between someone who can play really, really well and someone that can play really, really well when there's $1 million on that putt. And it's all about confidence. It's all about resilience. It's about what you practice, and it's about having a steel will, a mental ability to handle the tough situations and stay positive. See, one of the things, this is really interesting, this golf coach that I worked with, he said, look, when you're in practice and you're on the range and you're practicing your game, everything's your fault because you're the one and you're practicing. But when you go out into the round and you're playing in the tournament, it's everything else's fault. Stupid grass, stupid club, stupid wind. When you practice, it's your fault. Work on it, fix it. When you're in the game, you have to stay positive. He's a golf psychologist. I need that really bad. I always play so good when I play with him too. Because he helps me feel good about what I'm doing and feel confident. And I walk up to a putt, he goes, you're a world-class putter. My God, I am a world-class putter. Watch this sucker go in, right? And just there's something about confidence that affects your performance. But practice makes confidence, not natural talent. We've all seen naturally talented people that don't amount to much. As a trainer, my first job, the first speaking engagement I have, I was 14 years of age. I was a red belt at the time. My instructor said, hey, Joel, warm up this kids class real quick. I'll be right back. I got to take this phone call. And he never came back. And I taught that class. I saw him peek out through his office blinds, give me a little thumbs up, and tell me to keep going. I taught the next class. Never taught a class in my life. What did I do? I just imitated what he'd been doing the whole time. That was my first. Next week I got hired. $3 an hour. It was child labor. It was horrible. But it was cash money though. By the time I was 16, I was running his martial arts studio, selling contracts. At 17, I launched my first studio. I was Mr. Scrivener. I had 63-year-old students that I was signing contracts and they called me Mr. Scrivener. And I'm having to look at them in the eyes. I'll never forget Mr. Samples, Vietnam veteran. And I'm looking him in the eyes going, Mr. Samples, I know I'm only 17, but I'm the instructor here. And you have to treat me with respect. When we're in this classroom, it's very important that you call me Mr. Scrivener and you say yes sir and no sir, just like all the other students that are in here, because you're an example. When we step out of this classroom, call me Joel, call me whatever you want to do, call me a bad name, doesn't matter to me. But inside of this class, can you imagine being 16, 17, having adult conversations like that? And then be having the confidence to say, and if you can't get this right, you'll be doing push-ups for me. It's a mind freak, right? But it was confidence that was based in practice. I want to run you through, if I can, a couple of the steps of what I call the evolution of a winner. This is all the first couple chapters of my book, and we don't even get into today the actual 9 principles that are the building blocks of Winology. And I'm telling you, these 9 principles, they're timeless, they're powerful, they're profound. They all build one on top of the other, and they will absolutely change your life. I have incredible confidence in this because I've lived it, I've trained it, and I've watched people absolutely evolve and become a completely different version of themselves by using the principles that I teach. The evolution of winner is simply this. There are 4 phases. The first phase is imitation. I told you earlier, I didn't know how to teach a class, but I'd watched for 2 years my instructor teach, and so I just did what he did. Everything you learn through imitation. Your first phase in life of anything is imitation. Anybody learn Spanish in school? Like I did, very successfully. You start off in Spanish and the teacher begins to talk to you and say these different phrases, and she says the vowels are not A-E-I-O-U, they're A-E-I-O-U, and you're like, no, they're not. But you imitate her, and the next thing you know, you're imitating and you're saying words. Anybody ever had a friend that spoke Spanish that told you to say a certain thing in Spanish that you should never say in Spanish, and then you said it in Spanish to someone who speaks Spanish? Oh, I've gotten in so much trouble trusting some of my friends. Imitation is how we learn initially. I want to run you through this quickly if I can. Pablo Picasso, we all know, legendary, one of the greatest modern artists of our time, but he didn't start out as a great artist. He started out as a kid that maybe had some talent, but looked at and watched other people. In fact, he was inspired by this guy, Vincent van Gogh. Vincent van Gogh was the person that Pablo originally imitated because he loved his style. But Vincent wasn't the original either. Vincent liked this guy. And Claude Monet was the inspiration for Vincent van Gogh. So each of these different individuals were inspired. Monet was inspired by Rembrandt, and Rembrandt was inspired by Michelangelo, and we have no idea who Michelangelo was inspired by. Maybe you can find that out. I don't know who it is. It goes back far enough that my Google search didn't show it when I began to do this stuff earlier. But there's no such thing as an original great who didn't imitate. How did you learn how to public speak? You watched someone else that really impressed you, and you thought, I wonder if I could do it like that. And then you tried their style, and you realized, you know what, that's not my style. And then you tried it, and you saw someone else, and you liked their style, and you thought, maybe I can, and you imitated things that you learned, and pretty soon what happens after you do what the great ones did, the people that inspired you, is you begin to develop your own style, and that's where innovation starts. See, we all want to get to innovation. We all want to be innovators, but innovation happens only after a season of imitation. Anything you want to be better at, you can be better at if you start with imitation. There was a long time ago, and I had a friend who was very successful with finances, and I asked him, will you take a look at my finances and show me what to do? And he gave me a list of 9 things, and I walked through and I did those 9 things. I imitated what he told me to do, and it changed my financial forecast for my life because of the things I learned by imitating someone else. Anybody ever heard of Dave Ramsey? Yeah. You want to get out of debt? listen to Dave Ramsey. Imitate what he did. He walks you through his whole system. Anything that you want to improve, you can find someone better than you and start with imitation, and soon you'll develop into a place where you have a little more confidence and you start getting creative. Innovation is when winning becomes an art form. All greatness starts with this word, better. I think we could do it better. I believe there's a way that we could improve this. We've got to have that type of a mindset. We can never settle. Guys, you understand, when you begin to settle, when you begin to think, you know what, I'm good enough, I know enough, I'm sharp enough, as soon as you hit that place where you think enough, you start going backwards. We've got to constantly live in a place. It doesn't mean that we never are happy. No, listen, the beautiful thing, the true reality is that success is something that chases after happiness. When you learn how to be happy, right where you are, even though you have things you want to aspire to and accomplish, when you learn to be happy, people want to be around you. Anybody like to hang out with Eeyores? Anybody have an Eeyore in their life? Don't elbow them right now if they're next to you. Oh, well, that'll never work. I've tried that before. Whoa. We all know that person. That person's never successful because success is repelled by their misery. When you learn how to be happy and you learn how to be a satisfied person in the phase that you're in, knowing that there's a better phase in the future, you begin to attract the people to you that want to help you get to that place, right? I love this little study we're going to walk through here. Leonardo da Vinci, one of the fathers of aerodynamics. He's one of the first people that had all the charts and graphs, and he was fascinated with flight, but he never flew. But he inspired some people. You guys know these guys, the Wright brothers, Orville and Wilbur, I believe it was 1903, and they flew all of 300 yards, which one day I'm going to hit a golf ball that far. As far as they flew, they call that flight, right? If you only went 300 yards, you would call that failure. But to them, that was flight. And so they innovated. They took some of the things that they learned from other people and they made it better, and they had their first level of accomplishment. But then this guy, you may not even know that Alexander Graham Bell, who we have Bell Telephone and all of that, we know him for those innovations, but he was one of the fathers of aeronautic innovation and created all types of different next level things because he imitated other people and he learned and he got creative and he was innovative, and he inspired this sweet lady, Amelia. I don't know if she was sweet or not, I never met her, but this lady that inspired so many people because she became the first woman to fly solo around the whole world, right? And then this guy, Howard Hughes, was inspired by her and began to innovate. Did you know that we still use some of the technologies that Howard Hughes invented? Incredible innovators, but none of them were the original. They all started with imitation. The third phase is this, inspiration. I love the word inspiration. It comes from two different words crammed together, the word in and the word spirit. There is, ladies and gentlemen, there is a spiritual side to your success. Now, I'm not trying to talk to you about religion. I'm not trying to convince you of anything that you don't want to be convinced of, but you better believe that there is a part of you that is ethereal. There's a part of you that is creative and it's connected to something bigger than yourself. And if you can learn how to get into a place of inspiration, if you can get into a mode where, and I'm telling you, I'm a major proponent of meditation and thinking the right thoughts and really being creative and having moments like that where I'm just trying to get connected to something spiritual because I know that it's in that place that creativity comes. This is when your winning or your success becomes a state of mind. I'm going to run you through a couple athletes here. Some of you guys remember this guy, Wilt Chamberlain, maybe for all the wrong reasons, but he was an incredible basketball player. He actually had a season where he averaged, listen to this, he averaged over 50 points a game for the entire season. One of the greatest basketball players of all time. And there's a controversy because he played at the same time as this guy, Bill Russell, of who was the greatest player of their era. It goes back and forth depending on whose side you're on, because Bill never scored points. And 50 points a game, think about it. Kobe Bryant in his retirement game, he scored, 46 points, and everyone thought that was a big deal? Wilt Chamberlain averaged 50 points a game. He had games that he scored over 100 points in. Craziness. But this guy, Bill Russell, won the NBA championships 11 years in a row. 11 years straight. And they inspired a whole other generation. This guy, Michael Jordan, who wore his shoes, right? How many people wore those shoes? How many people wore his clothes? I never understood why athletes that we know don't smell great are going to come out with cologne. I never got that one, but you had... But this tongue-wagging dunk, this signature, have you ever seen the video side by side with Kobe Bryant and Michael Jordan and it's spliced together? Have you ever watched that? If you haven't watched it, it's unreal. You should look it up. And it's literally a video of Michael Jordan, and he's moving the way he moves. And I don't know basketball. I'm sorry, it's not my sport. I kick things. That's what I do, soccer and whatever. But if you watch them side by side, they intersplice them together, it looks like the same person. They move exactly alike. Every single thing. Why? Because Kobe Bryant grew up imitating and idolizing Michael Jordan, and he created an entire style of basketball that was an exact replica of one of the greatest of all times. And then this guy got inspired. Oh my goodness, he's just a beast. I don't know what to do about him, right? Because he's 300 pounds or whatever and just as talented as everybody else. But the game goes on and on and on, and we have the final step, I'm going to skip past this, is the identification phase. See, identification, so we have imitation, we have innovation, we have inspiration, and we have identification. Identification is when you come into a place of understanding that this is just simply your identity. This is what I do. All I do is win, win, win no matter what, right? Some of you sing that song. I know I'm going to win. I know I'm going to come out on top. I know we're going to find a solution for this. You come into a place where you walk into any problem, in any situation, and you say, you know what? I know we're going to make this work. I know we're going to find a solution. We may even have to part different ways, but we're going to make sure that it's good for you and it's good for me. We're going to create a win-win situation here. That's what happens when winning becomes your identity. But what happens also is that when you become the winner that everyone else identifies as the winner, you now are the one that has a target on your back. Because now everyone is imitating you. And everyone is trying to be like you. And if you don't keep pursuing and moving forward and staying on your game and going back to a place of imitation and recreating your own success cycle, what happens is if you settle here, you become not only the guy to beat or the one to beat, but soon you'll become the beaten. We can never settle. We've got to make sure that we maintain winning psychology and a winning physiology, that we're doing the things physically that we need to do to be in the right state of mind. We're doing the things intellectually that we need to do to be in the right state of mind. You can be a world-class version of yourself. There's no limit. I have a friend named Rudy. Rudy, at 65 years of age, went through a really bad wrongful termination. He was 1 year away from retiring. He'd been 30 years with the company. 1 year away, was wrongfully terminated, went into a whole lawsuit. In the middle of all of that, the turmoil, Rudy decided, you know what, gosh dog, I'm going to start my own business. I've always wanted to start my own business. And at 65 years of age, he started his own business. Now he's 68 years old. He won the lawsuit. But on top of that, now he's living his dream as an entrepreneur, has his own business, making more money than he ever made after 30 years in the corporate world, and living the dream because he chose, in the middle of a bad scenario, in a bad situation, that I'm going to learn how to think the right way here, and I'm going to make the most of this situation instead of sitting around making excuses and complaining about it. Good? Good. Now here's what I want you to do. Here's what I'm going to offer you today. On that website, Winology, and please don't feel any pressure, but on the website, if you go to Winology.com, there's a yellow banner, okay? There's a yellow banner, and it has a special for 50% off my audiobook if you buy a paperback copy. I have paperback copies here. If you will do that, if you want to, I'll get you the paperback here. I'll sign it. You'll get the email version, so you can do it all online by clicking that link. And I'm going to give you an additional copy of the paperback, so you're going to get a 2-for-1 on that and half price on the audio. So it's about a $65 value that you're going to get for about $31, something like that. I've never done this before. This is my first time to do it, so I figured I'd give it a try. My daughter's 14. She's working the book table, and we have a special charity. We have a special charity. All of the proceeds of the book sales go to the Needy Children's College Fund. My Needy Children's College Fund. But the whole process will happen if you just go to Winology.com on your phone. You can push that little yellow button. It'll take you through there. You can pay for it, the whole deal right there. We don't have to mess with any of that. And then we'll just sign the books for you. You can pick them up. And again, you're going to get the first book, and then the audiobook for half price, and then we're going to give you an additional book. And for however many books you want to buy, I'll give you a free, it's a 2-for-1 tonight, all right? So hope you enjoy it. Hope you take me up on it. I promise you, it'll elevate your life. You'll be glad that you read it, all right? Thank you so much for your time.